Ready to dive into emerging tech's game-changing potential? You're in the right place. Diehard Tech is where you can hear from speakers representing blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and other rapidly evolving tech stacks. It's time to welcome Jesse Streb, as VP of Technology and Engineering at DEPT. He will share his thoughts on how to leverage blockchain technology without getting too caught up on crypto prices.
Hello, I'm Jesse Streb, Global SVP of Engineering at DEPT, and here I'm talking about why crypto's not dead and the importance of stablecoins. So, as you might have seen in the news recently, the price of crypto is not doing that great. It's going down. We refer to this as a crypto winter. And whenever this happens, you always see in the media people claiming that crypto's dead. I've been in this space since 2013, and I can assure you that it's not dead. And as a colleague pointed out to me almost 10 years ago, he said, "You know who doesn't care about the price of Bitcoin? The blockchain." You know, he's right. 10 years later, the Bitcoin blockchain just keeps processing block after block every 10 minutes. And this is an important reminder, because as you start thinking about projects you want to do for your company and doing this on top of the blockchain, it's important to remember that it doesn't matter what that price of that token is. You can do your project because you're trying to leverage the blockchain technology. You don't care about the price. Now, if you are pricing things in a given token, you might care about that price because it might affect your users, right? So if you're selling one thing for 1 ETH and that 1 ETH is worth, I don't know, say like $2,500 and suddenly it drops to 1,000, it can create a whole set of problems for your users and therefore your business. Fortunately, there's the advent of stablecoins help mitigate a lot of these risks. It allows you to price everything in a single stable currency, and so you can focus again just on what that blockchain does for you. So let's dive a little bit into stablecoins because unfortunately they've been in the news recently as well. So I like to think about there being about 3 different types of stablecoins. There is fully backed stablecoins. An example of this is USDC. That is created by Circle and Coinbase. They came together to create this. And those are fully backed by either US dollars or equivalents like a US Treasury bond. So a way to think about this is, say you take from your traditional banking system, you deposit $100. Circle's going to mint, meaning they're going to create 100 new USDC tokens, and now you're on a blockchain and you can move around, and they work with a bunch of different blockchains, and everything is always represented by that dollar. So now if you, or let's say you sold your USDC to somebody else, they pull that back into their traditional banking system, they burn, meaning they get rid of 100 USDC coins. So this way you know it's always fully backed, it's always worth $1, makes it super stable, which makes sense because they're called stablecoins. Now there are other types too. There's algorithmic stablecoins. And in those scenarios, they're still backed by something. They're going to be an over-collateralized stablecoin. They're going to be backed by other cryptocurrencies. So a big one is one called DAI. And with DAI, they're backed by Ethereum as well as USDC, but they're over-collateralized, meaning that they have more Ethereum than they do actual DAI coins that they've minted. And this is important because that way you can't really have a run on that because anyone could cash out their DAI for the equivalents of either Ethereum or USDC. There's a third type that I refer to as under-collateralized stablecoins. Example of this is USDT. So this is backed by Terra, and this is the one that's been in the news recently. And so what happened in that case is that they were really backed by their own other coin they created called Luna. And so you could always exchange 1 UST for $1 worth of Luna, and they kept on the supply and demand equal that way. The challenge there is that you could end up with a death spiral where if you had a run on UST where if it's lost its pegged meaning it's equal to $1, and then people started trying to exit out to Luna, you could bring the price of Luna down and you end up what they call a death spiral, which is exactly what happened. And people lost a lot of money and it was awful to watch. So for that reason, we encourage people to avoid those type of coins. If you're running your company, we definitely strongly encourage you to focus on USDC. They are highly regulated. They're completely audited. There's another one called USDT. That D is important. It's actually Tether. They are also backed. It's a little questionable if they are fully backed or not, which is why we just encourage everyone to focus on USDC. So now that you have stablecoins, you're now on your crypto rails. There's some interesting things you can start doing. You can start focusing on what your application is and what you can do with that blockchain. And so I often get this question, well, okay, that sounds great, Jesse, but what's an example of what I can actually do? So let's just bring NFTs. We're all familiar with NFTs. If I'm selling NFTs, it's very similar to your e-commerce site, right? I'm selling you something, it's a digital good. I can now price it in US dollars, so it keeps it nice and stable. But beyond that, I can start doing things you couldn't do in a traditional banking system. So a good example of this would be a smart contract to help enforce royalties. So let's say I'm on a site, I sell my NFT on that site, and then that user takes that NFT and goes to sell it somewhere else. Well, because you have a smart contract that is following that user with that NFT, now when they sell it somewhere else, you could actually pay royalties back to that original author that had that. And that's something you cannot do in a traditional banking system. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's gonna be some really interesting, cool things we can do with blockchain technologies. I'm really excited to see what it is. So I hope you take anything away from this. I hope you realize that, hey, don't worry about the price of whatever coin you're looking at. Just focus on the application you want to build and use stablecoins as a way to negate any of those concerns you have around volatility.